Welcome to the Health Coach Show. Today we are talking about why silence is where the magic happens and how to tell if there is too much of you in your consultations.
So something that we are always talking to our students about is allowing more silence. And instead of jumping in all the time, just holding the space for their clients. And what we find is there's a lot of our coaches sometimes in the consultations when really there needs to be much more of the clients. And it needs to be this beautiful concept of holding the space for them. So Siobhan, how do you describe holding the space?
Yeah, holding a space is really where we might ask a question and allow the client time to process that question and think. We don't feel the need to always jump in and take control of the consultation. So essentially, we don't take up the client's space. So holding the space is allowing the client the time to process thoughts, emotions. It allows them to draw within themselves and draw on their inner resources and strengths to come up with ideas or to have their own insights, or what we call aha moments. And I think, the opposite of this is when we take up the client's space. So when we don't actually have those moments where there is just silence, we've asked a beautiful, powerful question, or we've reflected something back that the client said, and we just hold that silence, we hold that space, as opposed to feeling like we need to something's gone wrong if there's some silence and we need to jump in and provide another question or another strategy or some advice. So holding this space is just having the confidence to know that by doing this, we are doing the best by our clients. We are actually helping them to we're empowering the client and helping them to take more responsibility and for them to actually grow and learn.
Yeah, and we use that analogy, Siobhan, that a conversation is like a tennis match. It starts with me and then I hit it over the net to you and then you hit it back over the net to me. But coaching isn't a conversation. Coaching is about standing at the net, and as your client says something, you stand at the net and you tap it straight back with a reflection or with a summary or with an affirmation. You tap it straight back onto their side of the court. And I think when you were talking about holding the space, I really got that sort of feeling of that's their space, that's their court, that's their space. And we really stand on the edges of that and we provide the scaffolding. And sometimes as coaches, we jump in and we encroach on their space by, trying to fix things, trying to make them feel better, trying to come up with an answer that just, is right on it's so obvious to us, it's right on the tip of our lips, and we've just got to jump in and tell them what we think. And what we do is we then take up their space. And we talk about, grabbing the talking stick and running with it. They say, oh, I'm just, I never put myself first. I'm such a it's busy being a mum. And we go, oh, so busy being a mum. You need to put yourself first and you'll be a better mum if you put yourself first, and you shouldn't feel guilty. And we launch into this kind of, inspirational, empowering kind of speech, which we feel is really helpful. But actually all we're doing is taking our clients' space, grabbing that talking stick and taking the focus off them.
I think we do this a lot when we feel like we need to rescue our clients. We need to come to the rescue. We need to cheer them up. We need to perhaps encourage, when something hasn't gone well. And sometimes we feel like we are, empowering by telling them, oh, it's okay, you'll be all right. Or like we feel like we need to inspire, but it's not actually doing our clients any favors. So we're not there to solve, fix. It's that sort of old traditional mindset of thinking that we need to solve the client's problems. We need to cheer them up when they're down. We need to, when there's a silence, oh, maybe we've got to fill that because perhaps they haven't understood my question, or maybe I've got to come up with something else that helps them, to think more, or, maybe it's my role to come in with a strategy here. But, we're there to facilitate. We're not there to solve or fix.
Yeah. And, we see this a lot when someone comes back and maybe they haven't done what they said they were going to do. And they might say, yeah, oh, look, it was just really busy this week. And I just didn't, I didn't go to the gym, or I didn't do those exercises, or I didn't meal plan at all. And then we hear the coach say, oh, that's okay. Oh, that's okay. Oh, gosh, busy weeks happen. And that whole that's okay. And this has happened to me personally when I've, been to a health professional myself and I've said, oh, I didn't do that. And they're like, oh, that's okay. You know what to do. And that's the important thing. And I always think, why are you trying to let me off the hook here? I didn't need you to tell me that's okay. What I really needed you to say in that moment was, oh, I'm really curious. What happened? And then I find that we have this need, as you said, to try and fix things, to try and, they might feel that we feel uncomfortable because we didn't take action. So therefore the coach jumps in with, oh, look, oh, don't worry about it. That's okay. Do it next week. And it's this real sense of, I feel uncomfortable because you might be feeling uncomfortable. So I'm going to try and make things better for you. And actually, it's not what our clients need. Our clients don't need us to make it better for them. They need us to help them gain some insight and to look deeper and to explore what happened and just get curious.
Yeah, I mean, our clients are seeing us because they need to grow and learn and change. And by us saying that's okay and not letting a client to actually really understand maybe why it didn't work, and instead of saying, okay, but it didn't work for you, what came up for you? What were the reasons it didn't work? Really getting, as you say, getting curious about that. That's where growth happens, because clients start to go, oh, right, okay, well, and they start to think about all the reasons it didn't happen, and then we can just support them, come alongside, and what would you like to do next time to get around that? Otherwise, if we're just saying the whole that's okay, or trying to turn it around, the clients they're not moving forward. They're not learning anything about themselves. They're, as you say, getting let off the hook, which might be the easy way out, but that's not really the way to create sustainable change.
Yeah. And that, that turning it around idea, we see that too. And it's normal to try and change the mood if you feel like they're down on themselves because maybe they've had a hard week, and you try and turn it around by saying something really encouraging like, well, it's, you're a mom and you've got lots on, and you've got to, you're so used to juggling the needs of everyone else. And you kind of launch into this trying to help them to see that they're capable, or trying to help them to see a bright side or another side. And although we do reframe as coaches, when it comes from a place of trying to fix or trying to not allow them to feel what they need to feel, not allowing them to process what they need to process, then that becomes the problem.
So, Sharon, why do we do it?
It's a good question. I think as we often come in as experts, and we often feel like our role is to be the answer and to provide the solutions, and like you said, to come in and rescue our client if they're feeling uncomfortable. I also think it helps us maintain control of the consultation when we're driving it and we're jumping in with the answers, and that's sort of making people feel better. Sometimes we can think that what we're saying is really helpful, and that kind of spiel about, putting your own oxygen mask on first and filling your own cup. Sometimes we sort of say these, we get the pom-poms out and we make these statements like, you can do it and you need to look after you. And what we inadvertently do is we just take up a whole lot of space, and our clients then are left to go, yeah. And we know that if we're doing all the talking in a coaching consult, then we're not coaching.
Yeah, that's such that one word response, isn't it? When clients are just going, yeah, you know, you've taken up way too much space.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, in terms of why do we do it, I think sometimes we've heard from our students too, there is a little bit of fear in holding silence or holding the space. I think what's been expressed to us is that, you know, when there's a negative emotion there too, that potentially it's going to be going out of scope. So they feel like they maybe need to brush it aside or move on. But coaching is still in scope when we're holding the space and we're allowing someone to just feel what they need to feel. And then we sort of gently say, well, what are the next steps forward? Or there may be just a fear of, like what you said, that when we're used to having control and we're used to running a consultation on a particular agenda, it can feel a little bit frightening, like it might go off. And then where are we left? If we've lost control of the consultation, how will we keep on track in terms of time and inverted commas efficiency? What in terms of fear, what are the other things you think our students have been fearful of with holding space?
They fear that they didn't get the question right. So sometimes, you know, they'll ask a question and then they'll think, oh, maybe I wasn't clear. So they'll ask it again, but they don't give the client any time to answer in between. So they might kind of ask a question in 3 different ways. Or they might ask a question, then decide maybe that's not relevant, and so follow it up with another question. And the client's brain is, which one am I answering? And they end up just feeling really confused. Whereas if they just stopped at the end of the first question and left it, if it wasn't a great question and didn't go anywhere, then they had their other question up their sleeve and they could have asked it next or reflected and created some momentum. But there's definitely a fear of needing to ask a question a few different ways to make sure that they clarify it and get it right.
Yeah. And I guess that fear comes in sometimes when they met with a silence. Did my client understand me? Or did I phrase that the right way? As you said, of just letting go and knowing that coaching isn't about being perfect. It's really just about being present and curious. And, you know, you don't have to be in control of the whole consult, or you're not supposed to be in control of it at all. You're a guide and a facilitator. So what do we do instead?
We allow lots of space, lots of silence. And I think, you know, when people watch us coach, Siobhan, they'll see that we are not afraid of a very, very long, awkward pause. And we know that it's during the pause that the thinking happens, the insights happen, and that if we've asked a great question and then we leave that space for our clients, we don't need to be afraid that they didn't get it. Because one thing we know is if someone doesn't understand what you've just asked them, they'll say, sorry, what do you mean? Whereas if there's silence, they're thinking about it. And if there's more silence, they're still thinking about it. And if there's more silence, they're still thinking about it. So a pause can last as long as it needs to last while your client processes. And sometimes they still say, yeah, I don't know, I need to think some more about that. But you've started the ball rolling. That wasn't a wasted moment in time. That was them starting the cogs turning about that. So I think, you know, a place to begin is to pause at the end of a reflection and pause at the end of a question and give the client time to let it sink in and then go looking for an answer, or to let the reflection sink in and say, yeah, that is what goes on for me, or that is the way I feel. And then, you know, that reflection springboards to them opening the conversation into more areas.
And I think I love, like we said, we're not afraid of silences anymore. In fact, I love them, because when I hear a silence, I often think, whoa, I just really asked a powerful question, or boom, that reflection, that complex reflection really hit. And so I think also it's our expectations of ourselves and our clients that need to be really clear. We need to enjoy silences, look for silences, know that they are really necessary for clients' growth. know that, we've said this already, but that expectation of our role is not to fix, not to solve, not to jump in. Our role should be around facilitation, guiding, as you said, just tapping with a reflection, tapping it back to the client, so we're not grabbing the talking stick, so that the client has control of their journey, their destination. So it really starts off with that mindset of being really clear and catching yourself if you feel like you want to fix or cheer someone up or solve. So that comes down to also self-regulation, and also you being really present with your clients as well. So being really curious, and if you feel that need to fix, solve, jump in with some helpful tidbit, a little bit of, I've got, what's really interesting about, what you've just said is there is a new theory that la la la. We hear that with health professionals too. That's not needed. You've grabbed the talking stick. So just sort of really know that silence and your client needing to do the work is essential. You need to do less work. Something that Sharon and I hear back is that, Sharon and you don't really talk a lot in your consults. They're like, no, we don't actually. We just holding the space, powerful question, tap back with a reflection. And that client needs to be doing work in order to change. They need to be thinking, they need to be processing, they need to be coming up with their why, their ideas. Yeah.
And, another time that we really need to hold the space, as you were talking, it just reminded me of the times when someone's upset or, maybe you've asked them a powerful question and they're feeling, they're noticing that there's a conflict between what they're saying and what they're doing, or they're having an insight that maybe is uncomfortable, and holding the space where we just sit, literally holding them and holding the space for them so that they can feel what they need to feel. They can process what they need to process. And it might be uncomfortable for them, but us jumping in and trying to rescue the moment robs them of that opportunity of working through whatever it is that they need to work through. And I know, even if someone might say, I had a really hard week, this thing happened, I went to a funeral, and we might see a coach go, I'm so sorry. And all of a sudden they've jumped. They haven't just held the space and gone, okay, are you okay? Do you need anything? What's happened? Or we kind of, as I think it's human nature, we try to jump in and say, I'm so sorry. And is it okay? And, do you know what I mean, Siobhan? That jumping in. And
it's assumptions. You assume what the client needs and you assume what might make them feel better. That's what that is, as opposed to, just asking, what do you need right now? Do you want to move forward with this conversation, or do you need to take a moment? We ask a question as opposed to just assume what they may need. And that assumption comes on maybe our previous experiences, our own experiences, our clients, etc. But everybody's an individual, and we can't assume that we need to just ask. Yeah.
And it also made me think about, there was one coaching session where someone said, it's been a hard year. I went through a divorce. And the coach said, I'm so sorry. And then the client said, no, it's been really great. But there was this moment of discord where they were now dealing with the coaches, coming into wanting to make it better. And they were like, I don't actually need to be better. Like, it was a good thing. So it's funny how the assumptions that we make can also not only, mean that the client is trying to deal with us and our emotions about what they've just told us. It also means that it can create discord.
Yeah. I just thought of something, and it wasn't to do with that point, but just thought of something just generally about our lives. So, you know, our lives are so busy these days, like maybe they've always been busy, but they're particularly busy these days with, you know, it might be children and jobs and, you know, friends and family. And we have so much coming in to our brains and our lives. And an example is, you know, you might be at home and your kids are asking, say they're hungry, and your husband's asking you something, and your phone's ringing and emails are coming in. And there's so much coming at you, and you just go, oh, I just need some space, or I just need to think. And we can't think when that's happening, when things are coming at us a lot. And because we live in this sort of world, a lot of our clients are coming into coaching really, really needing space. Like they really need to be able to finally think. They really need to be able to be given that space by us. And I liked what you said about holding someone. We actually emotionally hold someone by just giving them silence and space. That's the best way of supporting someone. And by giving them that is such a gift, because they suddenly with this, you know, maybe they're seeing us for an hour or half an hour, and they have 23.5 other hours of, you know, oh, hang on, they're sleeping in that as well, but you know what I mean. And they finally, in our coaching consult, just get that time to process and get clarity and go, oh, gosh, it's been really good. You know, gosh, it's been really great talking to you. I've actually finally worked out why it is I do what I do, or I've got really clarity on what the next steps are, right? And they can go back into this busy world with a much more clear mind of what they need to do, why they need to do it, and the steps needed to be taken to achieve that. So that is also why holding a space in silence is critical as coaches to create that sustainable change and those insights and transformation that we need with our clients.
Yeah. And that's why there needs to be less of us in our coaching consults, or in consults in general. There needs to be less of us. There needs to be more of our clients, and we need to not be afraid of allowing those awkward pauses for as long as they need to be, and learning that skill of holding the space for the insights, for the ahas, for the processing that needs to happen. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Health Coach Show. Siobhan and I are passionate about training others in the skills of behaviour change. And if you hop onto our website, accreditedhealthcoaching.com.au, you'll see that we've got a number of training courses. We also have a free webinar, and you can also listen to more episodes of the podcast.